The little squirrel thief spring had finally returned to the forest. The snow had melted away. The streams flowed gently once more, and tiny flowers began to paint the meadows with shades of yellow, pink, and violet. Birds filled the mornings with songs, and the warm breeze carried the scent of fresh earth through the trees. Deep in the heart of that forest stood a small wooden cottage. An old man lived there alone. Every morning, he woke before dawn. While the stars still shimmered above the trees, he would prepare his tools, put on his worn brown coat, and head toward his farm on the other side of the forest. He worked hard from sunrise until sunset. By the time he returned home, the sky was dark, and the moon often guided him back to his cottage. Although he lived alone, he never felt lonely. His greatest joy was the beautiful flower garden growing in front of his home. Rows of colorful tulips, daisies, lilies, and wildflowers danced in the wind. The old man cared for them as if they were dear friends. Every evening, after returning from work, he watered them and admired their beauty before going to bed. But one spring morning, something seemed different. As he stepped outside, he noticed that several flowers were missing. A few bright tulips had disappeared. The old man frowned. "That's strange," he murmured. Perhaps an animal had wandered through. He thought little of it and left for work. The next morning, even more flowers were gone. Then the next day, more disappeared. Soon it became impossible to ignore. Every single day, someone was taking flowers from his garden. The old man scratched his beard thoughtfully. "No children ever pass through this part of the forest," he said to himself, "and I have never seen anyone near my cottage." The mystery bothered him all week. At first, he considered setting a trap. But how could he catch the thief when he spent every day away from home? Finally, he made a decision. "It seems I must take a day off." The next morning, he woke as early as usual. But instead of heading to the farm, he quietly sat beside the window. From there, he could see the entire garden. He waited and waited. Hours passed. The birds sang. The breeze rustled the leaves. Nothing happened. The old man began to wonder if he had made a mistake. Then, just as he was starting to grow bored, movement caught his eye. A tiny squirrel emerged from behind a tree. The old man's eyes widened. The squirrel looked around carefully. Then it trotted toward the garden, carrying a miniature cloth bag strapped across its back. Without hesitation, it began picking flowers. One flower, then another, then another. The squirrel worked surprisingly fast. The little bag slowly filled with colorful blossoms. "Aha!" the old man whispered. "There you are, little thief." He stepped outside. The squirrel froze. Its eyes grew wide. The flower it was holding slipped from its tiny paws. For a moment, neither moved. Then the squirrel turned and dashed away. The old man followed. He wasn't particularly fast, but curiosity pushed him forward. The squirrel raced between bushes, around rocks, and beneath fallen logs. Every few moments, it glanced behind to see if he was still following. The chase continued deeper and deeper into the forest. Soon, they reached a part of the woods the old man had never explored before. The squirrel suddenly stopped. The old man slowed to catch his breath. What he saw next left him speechless. Hidden beneath enormous oak trees was an entire squirrel village. Tiny houses made of twigs and leaves stood among the roots. Little lanterns hung from branches. Colorful ribbons stretched between trees. Dozens of squirrels hurried around carrying flowers, berries, and decorations. Everyone seemed busy preparing for something important. The squirrel that had stolen the flowers slowly approached the old man. This time, it did not run away. Instead, it lowered its head. "I'm sorry," the squirrel said softly. The old man blinked in surprise. A talking squirrel? Before he could ask a question, the squirrel continued. "I never wanted to steal from you." "Then why did you?" asked the old man. The squirrel pointed toward the center of the village. There, on a small wooden platform, sat a baby squirrel wrapped in a blanket of soft moss. The tiny creature slept peacefully. The village squirrels gathered around with warm smiles. "In 3 days," explained the squirrel, "we will celebrate the baby's first spring festival." "The first spring festival?" asked the old man. The squirrel nodded. "It is our most important tradition. Every baby squirrel receives a festival when spring arrives for the first time in their life." The old man's expression softened. "The flowers are for the celebration?" "Yes," the squirrel admitted. "This winter was long and difficult. Most flowers have not bloomed yet in our part of the forest. Yours were the most beautiful we had ever seen." The squirrel lowered its head again. "I should have asked." The old man looked around. The decorations were simple. The villagers clearly had very little. Yet everyone worked with excitement and love. He thought about the baby squirrel. He thought about spring. And he thought about how much happiness those flowers would bring. A smile slowly appeared on his face. "You are right," he said gently. "You should have asked." The squirrel's ears drooped. "But," the old man continued, "I think I know a better solution." The squirrel looked up hopefully. The next 2 days became some of the happiest the old man had experienced in years. Every morning, he visited the squirrel village. Together, they decorated the festival grounds. The old man brought flowers from his garden. Not a few flowers, hundreds of them. The squirrels planted them everywhere. They created flower arches, colorful pathways, and beautiful crowns. When the festival day finally arrived, the entire forest seemed alive with celebration. Birds sang from the treetops. Butterflies floated through the air. The squirrels danced beneath the oak trees. The baby squirrel received a tiny flower crown made from the very first blossoms of spring. Everyone cheered, everyone laughed, and for the first time in many years, the old man felt surrounded by friends. As evening approached, lanterns glowed among the branches like tiny stars. The old man sat beneath the great oak tree and watched the celebration. The squirrel who had stolen the flowers climbed onto his shoulder. "Thank you," she said quietly. The old man smiled. "You know," he replied, "I am glad you stole my flowers." The squirrel laughed. "I promise I won't steal them again." "Good," said the old man. "Next time, simply ask." The stars slowly appeared above the forest. The music grew softer. One by one, the squirrels settled down to rest. And as the old man walked home beneath the moonlight, he realized something important. Sometimes, what first appears to be a problem is simply a story waiting to be understood. And from that day forward, every spring, the old man helped organize the baby squirrels' festival. His garden became famous throughout the forest. Not because it had the most beautiful flowers, but because it was a place where friendship bloomed. And every year, among the flowers and laughter, one little squirrel carried a tiny bag, not to steal flowers, but to help share them. The end.